Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's morning, and we are about to interview a legend in radio. Hang on. Clif Martin, don't go away. Clif, does that put you in the mood?
We're going to get in the mood. Now, wait a minute. You call me a legend.
Yeah.
Jim Cox, I think you were already an MUS legend when I blew into town many years ago. You're famouser than I am.
Probably. I've been doing this for something like 45 years. Then I retired about 7 years ago, and I came back because this radio station is a local project. It's locally owned and operated, and I love that. So I'm back. I don't know for how long. You never know. See what I'm saying? But
I say, and I'm glad that our TV guy, good old Oscar, whom I haven't seen in a century or so, is also facing the camera toward your kisser once in a while. I have demanded that the interviewer should be on the air as well as the interviewee.
Yes. Well, it's nice to have you here today. And how long you been in radio?
Well, I didn't quite make 50 years. Pretty close. But, in fact, I just found some stuff indicating that I was still in it in the late 90s, and I thought I retired in the earlier ones, so I guess my brain's gone along with the other body parts. I don't know. I guess they did. I don't know.
That happens sometimes, but you look good, and you want to tell everybody how old you are or not. We don't have to get into that.
According to the Facebook page, I was born in 1905, and I'm 110 or 111, because people believe everything they see on Facebook, which is a terrible mistake. That's a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I made a phony birth date, said I live in Wisconsin. Maryland, and I'm clerk at Myers, and also dog pooper, scooper, and I can't remember what else. And people believe that. They'll believe anything you put on Facebook.
I've noticed that, and I was viewing your Facebook page about a week and a week ago, and it said "Happy Birthday, Clif," and everybody was wishing you a happy birthday, and all this time it was all fake.
Yes, it was.
So I said, "Happy birthday, Clif," and then after I found out, I put an unhappy birthday, Clif.
Like everything else on Facebook is very largely fake. Oh, forget, I shouldn't have said that. Some of my friends take things so very seriously, but I don't. And I'm old enough so I can get away with it.
Which station did you start at back in 1950?
All right, I'm glad you asked. You start working on your own memories. I'm going to ask you the names of the stations you worked for.
Right.
I started at WMRP, which, believe it or not, stood for the Methodist Radio Parish.
Wow.
It was owned by the Detroit Conference of the Methodist Church in Flint. And, well, the church underwrote putting the thing on the air, but they didn't support it much, so it had to go commercial. And I became a hotshot DJ in Flint. This is before the internet, so I had piles of fan mail, actual letters with envelopes and stamps on them.
Is that right?
And women would come to the station. One came from the town of Clio, sat on my lap, so I figured I might as well marry her, and I did. And we stayed married until about a year and a half ago when she passed away. We had just short of 60 years together of putting up with a radio person, and we are a little strange.
Midge was her.
Midge, yes.
Yeah, she was a wonderful, wonderful woman.
Oh, yeah.
She treated you good. You treated her well for many, many years. And you had, what, 2 children?
Oh, no, we have 2 of each. Boy, girl,
Really?
In that order, almost as if planned, but it wasn't. Sometimes accidents. Yeah. And you met my youngest one, Melanie.
Sure.
I am fortunate to have a best friend daughter. That doesn't often happen, but she takes wonderful, wonderful care of me,
I know.
is feeding me extremely well.
Yeah,
I'm eating stuff I never ate before.
Yeah, a short time ago when I picked you up, she says, I'll be back with lots of food for you, Cliff. Of course, it's Easter and all that.
She's a good kid. Well, anyway, I went from WMRP to WTAC, which stood for the Auto City in Flint. Then WKMF, which was owned by Fred Knorr, who also owned the Detroit Tigers at the time.
Very good.
WKMH was their a flagship station in Dearborn, and WKMF was the Flint station. And I had an evening show there doing sort of jazz, subbing for a DJ who went to the TB sanatorium. A lot of that was going on in those days.
Yes.
And then are you ready for this? WDOG, W Dog in Marine City.
Is that still going, I wonder?
Well, yeah, that call letter now belongs to a station in one of the Carolinas.
Oh, okay.
It was WSDC first. For a while at W Dog, Buck Matthews worked there. He had been a flyboy at Selfridge Field, and WDOG was his first station. Then he left to do the overnight at WJR, the big 50 kW in Detroit.
Wow.
Then he went to an FM station before he came west and became a famous weatherman. Buck Matthews, a very, very famous name in radio. Let's see, where did I go? Oh, Adventure. From WDOG, right after the fellow said, we have 100 like you. Or, I wish we had 100 like you.
Yeah.
Then the next time there's a pink slip. You always believe when the manager says you're secure.
Yeah, I found that out. Oh, you're the best, you're secure. And then a week later, hit the road, Jack,
Well, so I put an ad in the Broadcasting magazine, which was the Bible of the industry, and landed in Havre, Montana. That's Havre, but it's pronounced Havre. Named after a French seaport city of Le Havre, or something. You pronounce it like that. I can't say it in French. Way up on US 2, 35, 40 miles from the border.
Now, all these stations, you were playing music, right? It really wasn't talk radio back then, was it?
Nope, that comes later. And Havre, Montana was the most interesting 3 years of my life. One of my sons was born there. Cliff Jr. was born in Flint. Linda in St. Clair, near W Dog. Mike in Havre, Montana. And Melody here in Muskegon.
Yeah.
I think that, oh my goodness.
Yeah, sometimes it's all one blur.
Yeah, well, you just move around. Radio is such a, pardon the word, unstable business.
Yes, but it's been good to me over the years.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I worked at KBZ, I almost got canned for giving Bill Iddings an interview in which I said that radio is a flaky business full of flaky people. Hal Waddell didn't like that very much.
I remember you from WKBZ. I started in 1966 at WTRU.
Oh, yes.
Along with Bill Trapp, and there was Skip Knight and all that. And then, of course, MUS, I was there off and on throughout the years until they got competitive. Then I actually was working at both places for a while, WTRU and WMUS. And then they became competitive, so they said, well, take your pick. What's it going to be? So I picked MUS. But then in the meantime, I did go to WKBZ. That was 1972. And that was like climbing into a time capsule.
Mm-hmm.
The old engineer, George Kavitsky. Remember George? He was there. That guy saved he was from the Depression era, so he saved every little nut and bolt and all that. Great engineer. And then I think you were there in 1972 during the evening hours playing all that wonderful, wonderful music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was called Studio 85.
Yes.
It was kind of...
like this one.
Yeah.
Just a minute.
If I didn't care more than words can say,
And you had some great sponsors on that show. One was Krautheim Jewelers, right? Remember?
Krautheim Jewelers and Muskegon Federal Savings were responsible for whatever success I had at KBZ.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the days, this was after network radio when programs were sponsored. But Krautheim's and Muskegon Federal actually bought 4 hours in the evening, which was quite unprecedented at that time.
But they loved you.
Yeah, they did. I sold a lot of high-end jewelry stuff and collectibles for Krautheim's. I was able to ad-lib commercials. Bless her, Lucille, who worked at the upstairs department where they had those high-ends, happened to like me. And the CEO at Muskegon Federal Savings also liked me a lot. In fact, they even put a line in so we could do a theater organ show from what was then the Michigan Theater.
Yes.
So these were great days.
And that beautiful Barton pipe organ.
Yeah. Oh.
Now, is that still there at the Frauenthal Theater, where it'll rise up through the floor and somebody's playing you would play it a lot.
Oh, sure.
Oh, and that was basically designed for the silent movie era, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's still there. It's been all redone.
Oh, yeah. Well, I am probably more remembered, if by anybody, as a theater organist than from my WKBZ thing, because my KBZ fans are all dead or 110 years old. But after I was no longer famous for that, then I did accompany the Buster Keaton silent films for 3 years before they finally hired a professional to do it. I just did it because I loved the instrument. I'm totally unqualified to play a theater organ in public, but I just love the way it works and the way it sounds.
I think you did pretty well. I was there for a few performances.
Just being in that theater, what a thrill.
Right. Oh, yeah, it's a grand, I'm so glad that they've saved it.
Yep.
I remember when they demolished the Occidental Hotel.
Yep.
And that was quite a milestone in Muskegon's history.
Yeah.
I like downtown Muskegon now. It's really coming back.
Yeah, if I can figure out which street is going which way, that'd be nice. I understand they're going to change it again.
Is that right?
I'm getting too old for that. Well, anyway, let's see. Where were we in my history?
Oh, okay. Sure, continue.
From Havre, Montana, I put an ad in the magazine again, and I said, Wandering Wolverine wants Water Wonderland. Cool.
Now, what year was that? Do you recall about approximately?
That was about 63.
Okay.
Wandering Wolverine wants Water. I got an ad an answer from WMAX in Grand Rapids.
Mm-hmm.
As a news director, for which I was totally unqualified to do. I don't know how to do news, but it got me back to Michigan, lasted 3 months before I got canned over there. And people say, what? You got fired? Oh,
what
everybody
happened?
in radio's been fired many
happened?
times. Oh, of course. Well, they did have a good thing there, though. The receptionist girl was named Marge Wilczynski, and they called her the Polish Flash. And somewhere I have a picture of Marge, the Polish Flash, reclining on the WMAX grand piano, which made it all worthwhile. Go ahead, fire me. I don't care. Oh, Marge, where are you now, Marge?
Yeah, hard to say.
So after that, all right. A fellow named Glenn Lepard, who was a veteran broadcaster in Grand Rapids going way back to the early days, had become a Christian and was working for WFUR, the flagship station of the Kuiper Company. WFUR is still there, Christian radio.
Mm-hmm.
They were at that time building WKJR, at that time on Glendale. It's now Peninsula Drive.
Right.
And KJR stood for Kuiper Jr., William Kuiper Jr. That was the fourth in the Kuiper empire of Christian stations. So I was the first voice on the air.
Is that right? That station is no longer there. You know, I think they dropped the tower there. It's right alongside the expressway in Muskegon. The tower is still there under all that brush, but the station is no longer on. It's way gone, like a lot of them are now. Anyway, continue.
WKJR left that building. It became the Norton Shores Police Station.
Right.
It's now 2 or 3 other things.
Yeah,
been incarnated, and they built a building on Martin Road. That's no longer there.
No.
I think it's now condos or something.
Yeah, it finally made some money.
Yeah, they did. And let's see, after that, I went back to WKBZ. I think you were involved at that time for a short time. That didn't work very well.
What happened? Don't recall?
Man, who can remember?
I
don't
know.
remember that.
I know. That's a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. A fellow named George. I won't say his last name. He's no longer here. Who left and went back to selling cars.
I remember.
Boston.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't like me very well. And so I went to the original WQ on Peck Street.
Oh, yeah.
Which at that time was owned by the Price people who owned the Price Cleaners next door.
Oh.
And the manager, I'm trying to think of his name, he was a very well-known actor. He was the manager of the place. And Bill Stevens and Marge Champagne, 2 legendary names, went over there.
Yeah.
And they hired me to do the all-night show. Mm-hmm. And that was a great experience. One of my blog sites is called Burping Canary Feathers, and that was taken from an article that a woman wrote about for a church biography, in which she said when I talked about my overnight stint there, I was fairly burping canary feathers because I said I was able to get away with something like the cat that swallowed the canary. I would play a whole night of Gershwin, a whole night of Irving Berlin.
Oh, yeah.
Light jazz. It was just a wonderfully rare thing. Yeah. And then Fred Tascone and some others bought that station. They moved WQ into the WTRU building on Summit next to the drive-in theater.
Right.
And I worked both stations there. I had a call-in show on True and also a little 5-minute talk show, something like Andy Rooney. Maybe I should do that here, a little couple minutes. Why not? And after that, who knows? It's just a blur.
Yeah, but let's throw some names. Of course, you were talking about Bill Stevens. What a great guy he was. Of course, he's no longer with us. And there was Clark Manning. Remember Clark Manning?
Clark Manning, what a voice. Wow.
Yes. And Marge Champagne. Fred Tascone. He's still with us.
I run into Sandy quite often.
His wife.
She still looks like she's around 40 years old. I don't know what her secret is.
I don't either.
She says that Fred is active in the theater. He does sets or something, yes.
Oh, well, she's married to that good Italian. Maybe that's all that good pasta. Good pasta. Maybe that's what makes him last on. I don't know.
That's it. Some people wanted to call it Tascone, make it more Italian, but he said it was Tascone.
Yeah. So, folks, for those of you just tuning in, we are talking with a true radio legend here this morning. A delightful visit with the one, the only, Clif Martin. Now, when did you leave radio? Do you recall the year?
Well, I've been saying it was the early 90s, but I have some tapes that were made for me, dated as much as 96. Wow. So I guess I lasted longer than I thought I did.
Okay.
Maybe Oscar, our TV guy, knows.
Yeah, Oscar Osbo's here. This interview will be on our Facebook page soon. Courtesy of our friend here, Oscar Osbo, who does a lot of videotaping for a lot of folks. You do weddings and all that, Oscar? Sure, he'll do anything for $1, right? Sure. I will too. If it's legal, you know.
Sure.
And then, I don't know.
Oscar, if you have a card or something, I'll steer some business your way.
Yeah.
And I'll pump your brains about video, because while I'm heavy into computers, it takes me 3 years to put a picture up on the internet, so I could use your advice on all that stuff real well. See, where were we? Oh, some interesting stories. One of the stations I worked for, I won't name it, there was a restaurant right across the street. I went in there midnight to do the overnights. The first time I went in the restaurant, the cook was discussing the color of the waitress's underwear.
Yeah, now we're on the radio. You know that, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay, enough of that story. I heard
No, you can continue.
that the restaurant had been won in a crap game. Now, there's some old timers will know which restaurant I'm referring to.
Is that right?
They also had another restaurant. One night I was propositioned by a lady of the night in there.
Oh.
She said, "You want to go out?" So I just kind of stumbled. No, I got to go to work. Thanks anyway. And another time, Peck Street was one way. A guy came roaring down Peck Street in the middle of the night, the wrong way, took out the station garbage, which was on the curb, and scattered it all over Peck Street. And he just kind of went to sleep in his car, so I called the police, and they came and woke him up.
You know, some things just never change.
Don't they, though?
I mean, it continues. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to take a little break.
All right.
This is just half of the interview. This is going to be the first half of our interview with Clif Martin.
Okay.
And we have episode 2, number 2, coming up. So hang in there, okay?
We can only do 2?
What I do, what I do, da da do, da da do.